of the town featuring the Billy Jones Wildcat Railroad. I'm Alexandra Thompson. I'm the Registrar and History Programs Manager here at the museum. That means I'm responsible for planning programs like this, and I also work with the museum's collection, so all the things you see on display here that we have. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Will Whitney.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, amazing turnout. Wow, that's fantastic. So thank you everyone for swinging by to see this. I'm Will Whitney, General Manager of the Billy Jones Wildcat Railroad. I've been volunteering there since, actually I started in 2020 as part of their PR social media guy, just trying to bring the railroad to the younger crowds. And they love me so much that they let me basically manage the place now, general manager. So, but I've been going there literally my entire life. There's pictures of Dad holding baby me on the back of the #2 steam engine, and that steam engine is still there running today. In fact, I think it's running this weekend. So just talking to all the volunteers that keep that place running, like as long as you take care of these locomotives, they will outlive us all. It's absolutely incredible. But we're here today to talk about Billy Jones and his huge contribution to Los Gatos and railroading as a whole. So without further ado, we're here to talk today about Billy Jones and his Wildcat Railroad. So there's Billy. He was born in 1884 in Ben Lomond. William Billy Jones began working for the railroad at age 13. And here it is pictured on his first locomotive that he got to run on in Boulder Creek. And so Billy became an engine crew member operating lumber trains from Boulder Creek to Almaden on the narrow gauge railroad. And he eventually attained his desired occupation as steam locomotive engineer in 1905 at the age of 21. Here he is. I mean, that's what everyone really wants to do is when they're working on a train crew set, and one day be the engineer driving that thing. And then with his steady income from the railroad, Billy was able to purchase 10-acre ranch at Days Avenue, Winchester Road, not Boulevard back then, Los Gatos in 1917.
Oh, it was called Winchester Road.
It was originally yeah, it was just this little tiny street. We have some historical video of that too, so I'll make sure to point that out. And in 1918, Billy married Geraldine McGrady, a school teacher from Santa Cruz Mountains. The couple would raise 2 sons and 2 daughters. Tragically, though, both sons would be killed in action during World War II.
Oh,
Right.
I didn't know that.
For his entire railroad career, Billy was assigned to the Coast Division between San Francisco and San Luis Obispo. I mean, trains used to run absolutely everywhere across this country.
Where the post office is now was where
the station used to be. That's
Yeah, right.
correct. So this one is actually really cool. So Billy was asked to pose for a cover photo of the Railroad Monthly Employee Magazine, which the museum happens to have a copy of right here. I would love to thumb through that, but I'm not going to. And the thing. But in fact, also over there, you'll see in the painting, Billy was very photogenic. And so they took a lot of photos during the shoot, and they have been dispersed all throughout. So the same image would be reprinted in the national publications of American Associated Railroad, which I think this one is. Or no, this is Railroad Journal. But very photogenic guy, and I mean, come on, that's such a great picture. Just he's paying all attention to the kid's little train when his train is literally right behind them all. This is so cool. Billy's railroad seniority enabled him to hold an engineer position on the daylight passenger run between San Francisco and Los Angeles. So that was the line that he worked on, and he got to operate the very iconic daylight.
That was a big deal.
It absolutely was. It's such a beautiful locomotive.
That was like their #1 train.
1937.
This one was like one of the premier railroad positions you
That's
could
what
get in California.
I took from San Francisco to San Diego when I was in the Navy.
Oh, really?
During Korea.
No, it's it's a great locomotive, and they had a whole fleet of them. But yeah, very reliable engine and a very important transportation method. Just go from all around California. So as he was in San Francisco waiting for his locomotive to show up, he had a little bit of free time. So he was wandering around San Francisco when he discovered a small little steam locomotive in the scrapyard. He found out it was worth about $100 in scrap metal, so he paid $101 for it. Got to take it home.
Wow.
And so this was part of So it was built for the Venice Miniature Railway in Southern California.
It was like a 2-foot gauge or something.
It is 18-inch gauge. Yep. So kind of smaller, but yeah, essentially it was called the #2 because there was a sister one, the #1. And the two of them were basically public transportation down in Venice, California. So right here you can see the original map of Venice. The black line would be where the locomotives used to run. I mean, there was the canals and absolutely everything. I can't imagine. I would have loved to have seen that back then. Actual canals. So of course, I had to pull up Google Earth and see. And that location very much still exists, but it looked completely different, which is nothing but shops. It looks like they've paved over the canals, or I think they're in tunnels now. And there's almost no trace of the railroad down there anymore, which is very unfortunate. But during its prime, when it was right down there, it took some very iconic photos and postcards. And in fact, we actually had a gentleman reach out to us. He had 2 of the postcards, which after the presentation, you can come up here and see. 2 original postcards from the Venice Miniature Railway and a pen from the company that built the locomotives, which is just so cool. He just hit us up one day and said, I have this, would you guys like it? We're like, absolutely, we will pay for the postage. Please send it our way. So that's a really cool bit of history that we have.
Who built those locomotives?
The what?
Who built those locomotives?
I should know this off the top of my head. Yeah, Johnson Foundry, Machine Works.
Okay.
That's right. In 1905.
Wow.
So that makes our surviving number 2 locomotive 119 years old.
Wow.
Still running.
And running like a top.
I love that.
Yeah, it's just so cool. So John Coit was standing so look, yeah, he was the one that actually designed the equipment for the Venice Miniature line, including the 2 locomotives. And so as mentioned, he built the 2 identicals, the number 1 and the number 2. The number 1, we actually found it still exists in private ownership down in Southern California. A gentleman owns it. He's trying to fix it up. And we have told him that we have a beautiful railroad that will fit his engine if he ever wants to bring it up here, and he actually does. He would love to take a picture of the 2 sister locomotives again after nearly 100 years.
Oh.
So we're wishing him the best and a speedy recovery for number 1. And yeah, that will be a sight to see one day, the 2 sisters running down in Los Gatos again.
Yeah.
So obviously, very iconic little miniature locomotive, you have to do a bunch of films for it. So in 1924, a comedy short, Speed Boys, was filmed on the Venice Miniature Railway. Solely titled Hitting the Rails, the 60-minute film captured the misadventures of a group of children running the miniature railroad. Here's a condensed version that I found online. Let's see if the sound is working. So we'll just pretend it's a silent film. It originally was silent, and someone added some sound effects, and they're a little corny, so probably go without it. But primarily featured in this one is the number 1, the sister locomotive that we have.
Where am I?
Here we go. Choo-choo.
On the way. Wow.
So are yours coal burners still, or did you convert them over to oil?
They never were coal. In fact, when I'm looking at this video, I see that they just put blocks of coal on the tender. I find that hilarious. That's not what she runs on.
No.
They run. This originally it was run on bunker oil, so what,
Okay.
like battleships and barges used to run, very thick, sludgy stuff.
Yeah.
Ours has now been converted to diesel.
Diesel?
So we have a lot more finer control of the fire. We can burn it very cleanly.
Yeah.
But back in the day, yeah, the bunker oil, it's plumes of black smoke. Very iconic and beautiful for a locomotive. Not so good for the environment. So we don't do that anymore.
It's not running diesel fuel. And you use the diesel fuel to actually heat the water. You actually have a boiler on it, or?
Oh yes, no, we ignite the diesel, and
Wow,
so
that's
it's
hard to do.
It's a giant fireball. Yeah, we have to atomize it first
Yeah.
using the steam. But yes, our steam locomotives are fire, heat and water, and water to
That
steam.
little girl does.
You got
Overalls,
he
like-
goes, I'll get you an idea.
Oh, I got an idea.
Oh, boy. Oh, hey, guys, ideas coming up.
This is actually Venice. I mean, this was public transportation, so you can see like all the people just getting on, getting off, and just how it runs down the middle of the street. I would have loved to have seen that back in the day, or even just when it's going in front of your house and the palm
Yeah.
trees and on the sidewalk, like.
Here it comes.
Oh,
Oh.
jeez.
Oh, look at that.
It's Danny right
Don't let the Billy
Oh.
It's not actually that dirty.
Not too far from the truth.
Oh, no, you still around it.
Did it go?
Whoa. Just in time.
Uh-oh, I have
I have
it
it
too
too big.
big.
Was this in German?
Yeah.
Yep,
I don't know, yeah, I don't.
That other language that's up there?
yeah, that's
German
German.
or?
That's
Yeah.
German.
Okay, awesome. I was not aware.
Don't run out of time.
Okay,
Oh,
can
they
you move?
don't, oh.
I'm gonna pull his tooth out.
Oh,
There you
my God. Yeah. Now he's going.
The front fell off.
Holy cow.
Oh, there's.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, okay.
Oops.
Oops, uh-oh.
He tried.
This is the boy that he pulled off from earlier.
No, she's gonna run so fast. Oh, whoa.
Really fast.
Special effects. Oh, no. Be that way. I'll be okay. Uh-oh.
But again, the fact that this locomotive just goes right in front of your house,
Yeah.
so jealous.
Yeah. Oh, let's see what happened.
She sure is dressed up.
It's the heat. How funny.
Uh-oh.
Did have a headlight.
It did.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. He likes the other one first.
She's much nicer than you.
I never.
This is hilarious.
No, you
Oh,
first.
you're old enough, crap.
Oh, geez. Oh,
See ya.
geez. Oh. Oh, God. Did he make it? Oh, geez. Yay.
He's gonna come out of the.
Charlie Chaplin times seven.
Jump
Yeah.
up. Oh, jeez.
Looks like Spring.
Yeah. I think this train running faster.
That's Dutch.
Squish.
Oh.
That must be at the Venice Boardwalk.
I believe it was.
I won't do that
Oh,
again.
he did.
Punched it, he
Oh,
went
God.
outside.
That's what she says, she won't do that again.
Whoops.
Oh, no. Oh, it's.
Well,
But it was really environment as public transportation for Venice,
I
which
love
is so
that.
cool. So after the Venice Miniature Railroad closed in 1925, the two spot, which is the name of the locomotive, sat in the scrapyard until Billy purchased it. And so Billy, being a railroad man, he knew what to do to kind of fix it up. So he had his 10 acres of land over at Days Avenue, so he brought it and was able, with the help of some friends and railroad employees, he was able to fix it up and then bought rail from local fruit drying sheds.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he was able to lay track around his property. He also acquired the passenger cars that were constructed by Lewis McDermott for the 1/3 scale Overfair Railway at the 1914 Pan Pacific Exhibition in San Francisco. And a lot of those cars we still have surviving. So not only do we have a 119-year-old locomotive, we have 104-year-old passenger cars too that went with it, which is so cool.
Wow.
And so Billy painted it, he painted his beloved locomotive the same orange, red, and black scheme used on the Southern Daylight Pacific. So again, the locomotive that he took great pride in running from San Francisco to San Diego.
See?
He copied the color scheme of it. And then, so witnessed by 300 community members, Lewis McDermott drove the Gold Spike celebrating the opening of Billy Jones Wildcat Railroad, October 16, 1943, at his property. And at the end of this presentation, the museum here actually has that golden spike in the cabinet over there. So we'll make sure to open that and show it to everyone. But yeah, we have the original golden spike. And so yeah, we have actually Billy right here. And then yes, this would be Lewis McDermott. He was well known for making a lot of railroad equipment that he was able to sell to Billy, which is some of the equipment we are still using today for our railroad. Billy's Wildcat Railroad attracted admirers from both inside and outside the broader Los Gatos community. I mean, who else has a train in their backyard? Back in the day, no one really did. In fact, a lot of people consider Billy Jones as the grandfather of grand scale railroad. Grand scale, we have the little small trains you get for kids, little HO scale or G scale, and then there's the full size ones like at Disneyland. This was kind of that middle ground. It's a big miniature locomotive. So the term grand scale was coined, and really it was Billy that started this. One of these people that came from outside, a mutual interest in steam trains, led to a visit by Walt Disney in May 1948, which resulted in a lasting friendship. At this point, Walt had already made, well actually not Walt, Disney had already made Snow White, Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, Bambi. So they had Disney money, which explains why when, in this next clip, Walt and a few of his friends, so we had Walt Disney, Dick Jones, the voice of Pinocchio, Eddie Sargent was Walt's #1 draft person, so helped design the park, Disneyland, and Ward Kimball, the voice of Mickey. These gentlemen went to Los Gatos, they paid Billy a visit, they brought their very nice color camera equipment, which for 1948, this was astounding.
Oh, that's.
Wizard of Oz had just been filmed, I believe, like 5 or 6 years prior. So color was new. And we actually have footage, that would be Billy right there.
In his backyard.
This is, yeah, the ranch at Dave's Avenue.
Every time my folks came down to visit, we'd go spend all day Sunday out in, my father loves steam engines.
It's amazing. Well, so did Walt Disney.
Look at that.
Did you hear about two high school girls?
Well, he might talk about
I don't have that.
They were
on the rest of my
instrumental in moving the trains from where it was to where it is
Ah,
now.
yes, I believe I have footage. I think of those too. So that would explain.
One or two high school girls were instrumental in moving the train.
Right,
Saving
absolutely.
it.
Wow.
Because we
Yeah,
moved-
because that orchard is long gone.
It actually is. There is still a plaque on the wall on Winchester that says, this was the original site, which is actually really, in fact, coming up in December when we load one of the locomotives onto a trailer. Also, by the way, that Winchester.
Oh,
Winchester, rush hour, clearly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look at all the traffic.
And
No one wants to do it.
one car. But what we started doing, we've done it for about 3 years now. We load up one of the locomotives on a trailer, we take it to the Los Gatos Christmas parade, And then we have to get it back to the railroad, but we have to take a very specific path because it's a very big trailer. And so we've amended our route. Now we actually drive in front of that plaque on Winchester. We pull over, we take a photo, the locomotive near its home. So it's really cool, but yeah. And in fact, we were showing this to somebody, and someone knows each and every one of those trees. Like, yep, that palm tree is still there. It's bigger than ever. We have a lot of our older volunteers. Some of them did actually used to run on this, so they tell stories about how when they were kids, they'd be little brats and be picking plums off the tree and waiting to come around Winchester and then chucking out cars. And I'm like, oh, we're jumping on and off the locomotive. Oh my goodness, like, absolutely ridiculous. But so that would be Ward Campbell, yeah, voice of Mickey, and that would be Walt sticking his head out the back. But yeah, just boys playing with trains, which is super cool. But also just to see the locomotive with that paint scheme, I mean, completely different from what it's looked like the entire time it's been at the railroad since I've been alive. But yeah, just so cool to see it in all these different paint schemes throughout its life.
Well, that track is very rickety.
It absolutely is. It was built by volunteers.
Yeah.
But that kind of adds part of the charm to it when you're on a little rickety ride.
Are you still doing the train down at the park, or is it closed for the winter?
No, yeah, we will be doing the holiday train, which starts December 12th. So,
It's open on the weekends.
and yes, we're currently open on the weekends too, weather permitting. The trains don't like rain very much, so.
Or heat.
We used to could hear the whistle from our house, but we can't, or I can't.
We live up on Shannon.
Okay,
So we could.
we've been trying to get a little bit. We've got a lot of noise complaints. It's like, you buy a house next to a railroad, what do you expect you're going to hear? But
That's a good sound.
absolutely,
Yeah.
it's just so iconic. I love it.
How fast is that engine go?
That is not the question you want to ask. The question is, how fast can that engine stop?
How fast can it stop?
That is-
Yeah, well, that's
that's one
true.
of the things. But also, we don't have enough straightaway to actually test
So
that.
they find out.
However, kind of the original location, Venice, we approximate it used to run at about 30 miles an hour when it was carrying passengers.
Wow.
That's pretty
There is some math you can do based on the wheel size and something that's, I don't know, math never solved anything, that's my point. But yeah, they can actually kind of figure out what its top speed could be. But again, we don't ever want to push it that fast because we're carrying families.
You don't have to stop.
Here comes the money.
No air brakes.
But just so cool to have the color footage of Billy Jones himself, again, Ward Kimball, and even that water tower we still have. Like, it's so cool to see all these artifacts at his original location that we weren't able to preserve and bring to the current.
The water tower is at the park.
That's the water tower that we use.
Wow.
I think it's funny all those guys are wearing neckties.
Yeah.
And again, that's actually one of our passenger cars. We have since chopped the little roof off, and we kind of still scratch our heads about why do we do that. But apparently, it was a big hazard of everyone bumping their heads as they were getting in and out.
Oh, wow. That would hurt.
And then, of course, they had to film a little tiny skit. Get out of the way, Mickey!
Jeez. That's please.
Standard.
Wow.
But, so later on after their visit, Walt wrote a letter to Billy Jones and said, quote, "I enjoyed meeting you and what a thrill it was to get on throttle of a live steam engine. We all came away with feelings that the Jones family are wonderful people. Personally, I envy you for having the courage to do what you want, and may you continue to go on enjoying life to its fullest. My kind remembrances to you all. Sincerely, Walt Disney."
Wow.
Wow.
And so, really cool. In fact, we hear little stories all the time. We still need to kind of confirm what they are, but one of them is our logo. So actually, our Wildcat logo. Originally, the logo was Sylvester the Cat. Sylvester Tweety Bird Warner Brothers, which was all fun and games until one day, what do you know, Warner Brothers lawyer showed up to the railroad. He's like, "Oh, can't really be doing that." And so we had just gotten good with Walt. So the rumor is that our logo is actually a Disney character that Ward Kimball himself drew up for us. So technically, the Billy Jones Wildcat Railroad, Billy, could be a Disney character. We still need to confirm that, but so it's stories like that I absolutely love hearing.
Yeah.
And in fact, also the museum has this photo here, Casey Jones, and just really cool. Would you like to speak more to this?
Yeah. So that's an animation celluloid from Disney's film The Brave Engineer, which follows the exploits of a railroad engineer named Casey Jones. And according to the Wikipedia page for that film, it's based on another railway character, like a real life one. But Walt Disney always called Billy Jones Casey Jones. That was their nickname for each other. And you can see he signed it to Casey Jones from Casey Disney. But that is an actual animation celluloid that the family, the Billy Jones family, had that they donated to us a couple years
And the
ago.
best part, it's even the number 2 engine, just like
It
ours.
is.
What does it say, Billy Jones?
So to Casey Jones with best wishes, Casey Disney. But really just awesome. And so, while the locomotive was running in his backyard, Billy offered free rides to the Wildcat Railroad with the caveat of a large donation jar was used to support local causes. So Billy Jones was a great philanthropist. He used the railroad for fundraising for all these great causes. So, polio, the Cub Scouts, nursery schools.
Nursery school.
Absolutely. In fact, he gave private donations to the local children's hospitals completely anonymous. Like, we found out about that later, but he was a great man and just constantly giving.
Can't wait for this.
And so it's really cool that we have a lot of this historical. We're finding more and more of it all the time, and so it's all about preserving it. But just holding it in a vault somewhere is not good enough. We need to share all this history too of this railroad. So really cool just to see this stuff.
And that's it. Oh, they're up to it again.
So what's the status of that other locomotive? You're restoring it? Or the guy that owns it is restoring it?
Number one,
in
yes.
place?
So it belongs to a gentleman who has, from what I've been told, he has machine skills. It's the equipment he doesn't necessarily have, which is why it's taking a while.
Yeah.
And we've offered, hey, just bring it up here. You can have access to our whole workshop. However, it does need a lot of work. So, yeah, we will see. But I mean, those locomotives were built so sturdy. We have high hopes to be able to salvage it.
Is it got an air compressor on it? Does it have air?
It does. It has a steam-powered air compressor. That's how we generate the air pressure for the brakes that we use.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if it had air brakes.
The railroad,
That was a dumb
the railroad that ran through Los Gatos from San Francisco, through tunnels,
Mhm.
IBM used those tunnels.
Right, for data storage now, I
Yeah.
think, right? It's
Close
really
to
cool.
one.
I've heard that. I've heard of old train tunnels being used to store cheese because it can maintain the perfect temperature humidity because it's just a hole in the mountain.
Right.
So, I mean, at least they're not totally going to waste, but if somebody else moves in, that's less likely that then the railroad will be restored sometime and get to use those tunnels again. But still, it's really awesome. And so, over the 25 years of operation at his branch, Billy's Backyard Railroad provided thousands of rides and raised funds for countless number of community causes. One of the great benefactors, this was the editorial, salutes Billy Jones, from the Times Observer. One of the great benefactors of the West Valley died yesterday. Billy Jones, the man with the miniature railroad at Dave's and Winchester Road, had been friend to generations of Los Gatos area people. Once he passed, the question was, what do we do with the railroad? Everyone basically wanted to preserve it, but the family themselves didn't have the skills or expertise to know how to operate a railroad or even do maintenance on the steam locomotive. But the community definitely wanted to keep the railroad. And so all of these newspaper articles came out basically trying to save the railroad. Let's find something for it. Let's see. So, from what I've been told, it was the Girl Scouts. They were the first ones that not only did a fundraiser, they were also the ones that started bugging their parents to then kind of start finding more like-minded people to eventually come together, form a nonprofit to purchase the railroad and keep it running. And so we have the Girl Scouts to thank for that. And so then Dave's Avenue was right next door to where Oak Meadow Park was, a nice big open spot that you could put a railroad down there. And so that was kind of where the idea started shifting towards. We found some original blueprints or some designs of what the railroad could have been. And basically for Oak Meadow Park, you have currently the airplane is right here in that playground. And so they would have just done a little figure 8. I am so glad that is not what we ended up with. That's a 30-second ride at best. And so then, yeah, Billy Jones month underway in Los Gatos in July, which we still celebrate July as Billy Jones. We have Billy Jones Day, we have the opening of the railroad and the commissioning of the carousel. A bunch of little events happen in July that we just kind of start celebrating all as Billy Jones month at the railroad. And so again, the Girl Scouts raised a total of $6.43 but again, it was the children that really, they wanted to keep the train and do whatever they could.
Oh, I remember that store.
And so, yeah, we had like $6.46 there, we got $7.18 there. It was just, it's so awesome to see what was going on there.
That was some decent money in those days
Absolutely.
for a little fundraiser.
And so then finally, was it Sunday, July 28th, the final July fundraising event for the railroad, and most likely the final running of the trains at Dave's Avenue. They did still run the locomotive at the property, and so, yeah, they threw a huge fundraiser event. They sold items and merchandise, and obviously the train rides were still free, but accepting donations. And there were some very, very generous people in the area, and not even from the area, but people who just loved the idea of a railroad. They contributed heavily to preserving the locomotive, which is awesome. I just love, the old cars.
Oh,
they
the
have
cars,
there.
Yeah.
We have the scouts there.
Wildcat Railroad.
Is that you there?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Is that a mine? So that is actually Bill Mason.
Right.
If you've come to the railroad, you might know we have Billy Jones Wildcat Railroad and W.E. Mason Carousel. Bill was a great friend and benefactor of the railroad. In fact, I believe he was, this is where I need Ken. He knows more about this than I, but yeah. Bill Mason, very influential person at our railroad. I love that, selling caps, because I got mine. And in fact, so we still don't know for certain, right? But we're pretty darn sure that this might be Billy Jones' hat. It was, you can speak to that again? It was the family donated?
The family donated that hat. They didn't say for sure if it was Billy's hat, but it's definitely been worn and used, and I don't know who else's hat it would be.
Exactly.
But
So
it's
that
at the
is-
very least a member of the Jones family's Wildcat hat.
So that is just so cool. It looks nothing like mine. Mine's still, I got a couple more years to weather mine to look like that. But, and again, the covered passenger cars too. And I love how they're all painted different color schemes. Right now we have everything just painted green. I have seen pictures of it previously painted red. But just so cool to see it at the original location. So then, as time went on and kind of more and more ideas developed, the idea was to spread the railroad from Oak Meadow into Visona Park, because again, you got two parks right next to each other without a railroad. So what should we put in there? Put a railroad. So then, yeah, we were given the good news from the county in favor of the second station in Visona. So being able to just expand across the creek. And I love this title, this one, The Little Engine Whose Community Thought It Could. And again, just all the original artwork that we have of just all the concepts for developing the railroad is just so cool to see this stuff. And so then finally we arrive at the breaking ground ceremony at the railroad. And I've seen this footage a lot now, but it's so just cool to see what the land looked like without anything currently there. I'm there every single day at the railroad. I know exactly where the clock tower is, where the tracks go, and just seeing it bare like this, like I can't imagine. So and the golden shovel, of course. And meanwhile, still at Dave's Avenue is where the original railroad was, so perfectly good pieces of track and all the parts, like I said, the water tower, and also we needed volunteers to help basically transplant the railroad from Billy's property into the park. So there was a call put out for volunteers. And young and old showed up just to help pull ties,
Wow.
basically unspike the railroad, salvage what they can, and bring it on over.
Oh, jeez. Two. Jeez.
But the best part is you have a locomotive there, so you drive it to the farthest and you start pulling stuff up and you work the train backwards. So you can still help, a little bit with all the lifting. Yep, pulling up spikes. Every single tie has 2 spikes, 2 spikes, 2 and 2, so 8 spikes per tie. One tie about every 8 inches, so yeah, quite a lot of work.
Yeah.
Quite a lot. I have not had the opportunity of laying brand new track before. I've amended old ones and I've set up temporary ones, but it is a lot of work, but you actually feel really good at the end of the day doing that. I don't know.
How did you guys properly gauge the track that you have?
We have gauge bars,
You have
so
gaugers?
these basically like clamps that are
Yeah.
set exactly right, and so you just set those up, and every so often you go and you check.
I didn't know if you did it by guess or by God or.
No, yeah, there's you have a tiny bit of wiggle room with the locomotive, but still, it's you're driving a locomotive. It will correct itself if it's a little too tight. It'll start pushing stuff
What
apart.
happened to the tracks during our earthquake?
Our everything was fine. What was actually really interesting, we don't have it in this one, but we had another locomotive at one point in time, very briefly at the railroad. It was from a quarry. It was a super high pressure, it didn't have a fire or anything like that. It was compressed air. So just massive, like air tank. Super heavy. In fact, too heavy, it would not actually run on our rails. It would mess up the rails, it would break the switches. And during that earthquake, I've been told the only damage was that thing jumped over its blocks and bumped into the barn door. That was the only damage that the railroad sustained in the big earthquake. But yeah, there's this locomotive, not even really a locomotive, just a giant air tank went rolling through the door. And so then, yeah, May 16th, 1969, Wildcat Building's right on schedule. It took a lot of people, just all this cooperation to help put this in. We had a lot of the labor, equipment, materials donated by local companies, which is just so awesome. Everyone was just in it to save this railroad, which is so cool. And so this is the station. That would actually be the snack shack right now. Which, again, just so awesome. Those trees are still there, only much, much bigger. And that would be the clock tower, actually. And so yes, lumber was donated, equipment, specialized equipment was donated. It's just so cool. The whole community just pitched in to preserve this. And so those would be the markers for where the roundhouse currently is.
They'll be here when we're dead and gone.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Under my watch, it better. And so this currently is the roundhouse. So that long strip is where all the passenger cars usually sleep at night. And it's like, if I could have gone back in time and talked to them, it was like, hey, maybe make this a little bit bigger. We're gonna get cramped here pretty soon, and all this stuff. It's like, oh, I wish I could have just gone back and like made a couple of changes, because now it's really hard to amend a building. But as it progressed, all the newspapers kept on it. It was a really big deal. Bill Mason was the president of the tiny railroad, announced plans to have the rolling equipment and tenders moved to the location by July 4th.
You just trucked it all over there?
Absolutely. In fact, we'll see it.
How much does that thing weigh? The engine?
I don't recall because they tell me all sorts of numbers, and then is it full of water? Is it full of fuel?
Oh,
All
yeah.
this stuff changes, but I think I've heard.
12,000?
I believe the number 5, our large locomotive, I've heard 8 tons.
8 tons?
So these are pretty darn
16,000
heavy stuff.
pounds, yeah? Okay. And then with a load of water and fuel and everything,
Right?
probably 12 tons, 14 tons.
And the funny thing is, now we do this at least once every year when we load the locomotive on a trailer and go down the parade. In fact, actually, it was back in March. We were invited to another railroad's 30th anniversary. So again, we loaded the train up on the trailer. That's routine stuff for us now. But yeah, back in the day, trying to figure out how do they do
That
it.
guy's got a track and everything you lift right up.
Absolutely.
Look at that.
Can't help on playing.
You just lift the track and everything with it, huh?
Yeah.
Built that special?
Yeah, so it's designed, you'll see it picks up the
Designed
track
for-
as well
yeah.
that it sits on.
That's nice.
And so then, yeah, eventually all the equipment made its way on over here. Turntable, a very important part of the railroad, was actually built by the Seabees. So the San Jose Naval Reserve Seabees, some 20 strong, invaded Oak Meadow Park the weekend of November 5th and November 15th and 16th. And by Sunday night, had completed construction for the 24-foot diameter turntable pit from the Billy Jones Wildcat Railroad. For us, the way that our railroad is set up, if you've never been there before, is that the train goes out, but then it comes back the same way. So we do need a way to spin the locomotive around, so that is where our turntable comes into play. And it was professionally built by the military. So the original one was. Our turntable has since moved. As we've expanded, we've added more cars, we've become a bigger operation. That turntable was kind of in the way of everything. So now the turntable is actually more back in this area, and we ended up just filling that one in, but you can still see the concrete walls of it on occasion. So the next time you come to the railroad, look, you'll see a little semicircle of where the original turntable used to be.
I saw in that one drawing you had on the layout that you had a Y at one end of it.
A Y, yeah, it was also considered instead of the turntable. So a way of like you drive the locomotive through, you do a U-turn, and then you do another turn.
You still have that Y, or is that gone?
No, so that's gone. We have the turntable instead. But as we mentioned, we do cross a creek to join the two parks together. So we had an actual full-size railroad flat car that was in a derailment, a little dinged up. The railroad didn't want it anymore, but they donated to us. So our bridge is actually a train that our little trains drive across. I just love that little bits because they make very sturdy bridges. In fact, like there are some people that drive cars over, they can be part of your driveway or something like that. So again, we had a company that they had a crane, they brought it down, they lifted it up, put it in place. And what I love about it is they did all the measurements, everything was fine. We'll see it later on in the video. Essentially, that bridge just sits on two little pins that it just comes on top of. They got that measurement perfect. It slipped in like a glove. They did not anticipate how wide it was from there. And so in the video, you see them, they lower it, then they have to lift it back up, and a bunch of guys with shovels are trying to make the hole a little bit bigger as quickly as they could, as these things hanging above them.
Oh, wow.
But
So it just rests on those 4 pins on footings?
on 2 pins.
On 2 pins.
One on either end.
Just one?
But that, and then it's on a concrete.
Those are footers?
Yeah, footers.
Yeah.
So it's very sturdy. It's not going anywhere. It has it. But it's just the little things that the more I volunteer there or work there, you pick up the history that our trains are driving on a train car. It's just really cool.
That'll probably outlast the railroad.
Oh yeah, it's really cool. And I've been told once they put it down, we had a roofing company come in. They put asphalt on it, so it's not rusting. It's not going away anytime soon. So just really cool just to see. Yeah, just the effort. And again, just how
There it is.
the park looked like. All the trees are so tiny.
Yeah.
And yeah, that would be Highway 17 in the back.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. What are they doing there with it?
Oh, that's right. It was stuck on the truck, so they had to kind of shimmy the truck around until eventually it pops loose.
There.
There it goes.
Wow.
And this all started from a guy's model train in the backyard.
Yeah, just preserving. Just, you know, he found it in a pile of garbage and saved it and just exploded from there. Now it's all this stuff, community coming together, reusing, you know, old railroad equipment, just everything we could get our hands on just to keep the memory alive and going. So it's so cool. I love how wild the creek is back there too.
What's the next step for the railroad?
We would love to expand it going down to the lake, because that's one of the things you can ride on the train, you'll never see the water. Like, no one, if you don't know anything about the park, you have no idea it's there. So we would love to expand down there, add
All the way
more.
down to the lake.
Go down to the lake, go parallel against that red pedestrian crossing. That would be one awesome dream. The red tape is unbelievable. The other thing we would both love to do is, as I mentioned, our roundhouse, getting kind of cramped in there. We would love to expand it. And so we're currently in the process of kind of brainstorming what sort of things would we like to add. Once the dreaming stage is done, we'll start putting a price tag down, and then we'll start fundraising. And we'll see. But yeah, we would really love to run 2 trains at once. Our current layout doesn't really allow for that. If we did an extension, we could run 2 trains. We'd also have to work, you know, on our timing, our turnaround, stuff like that. But that would be, again, these little tiny things that we would love to do. Any one of those could be the next step for the railroad.
Wow. Nita, is this park right down the street from you?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Wasn't sure. Yeah.
So yeah, you can see that's literally just a pin that it rests on. So that's a lot of tanks.
Wow. And when was this? 1969?
Yeah, it should be 69, yes.
Okay.
And there we go. There's the guys with the shuttle. A little bit too long, and I didn't quite get the measurement right. But at least it sits in this pin properly. That's all we really care about. So then, yes, finally the 2 parks were bridged. And so then now we can start building the railroad on the other side of the creek, the far side of the creek. So again, another call out for volunteers. And we got everyone together, just kind of digging away. They put down, initially the railroad was kind of very rough, just making sure that the curves, everything worked. It wasn't properly graded. But again, it was something, just getting work done finally on the far side of the creek. Because yeah, we had an entire second park that we'd have to start going around. So really cool just to see all these people working. I've heard that there was like a half-ton pickup truck that was carrying about 2 tons of gravel and stuff. So everyone just pushing themselves and their equipment to the max. In fact, I think that is it right there. But it's just, again, the community coming together to put all this together is so cool. And again, yeah, help wanted signs put out in the local newspapers, either for donation or just volunteering your time to help. And then unfortunately the opening was delayed. We didn't quite make it in time. So yeah, it was scheduled for Father's Day, but then it was pushed back to July. And so then of course all the volunteers are doubling their efforts. More help wanted ads went out.
So when you were building this line and you were buying the rails, were you designing your own turnouts and everything, or were you buying them outside of the park?
No, so when we bought the rails, I believe came from a quarry nearby.
Okay.
So we have, there's a whole little mix of different types of rail,
Yeah.
which for the most part you can't even tell. But then as a trained railroad guy, you'll see, oh, these are kind of different, but they work together great. That's what we really need.
No, but I remember when you were buying switches already made.
No, we make those in-house. Yeah,
Wow.
we can make our own switches.
That's something.
And so then finally we make it to opening day, and I have never seen the locomotive look more beautiful than that.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, yeah.
That's nice.
It's straight down the back there.
Oh, all around.
All cleanly polished, fresh paint, everything looks amazing. And again, our little roundhouse just has the one little door. Now it has two, and now we want to put like 3 or 4 on it. So it's like, again, oh. But so cool just to see it. She looks, the number 2 looks absolutely beautiful.
Oh, yeah. So you have your own shop, you do pretty much all your own maintenance on it?
We do. We can do almost everything in-house, and then if there's anything extremely specific we need done, we have contacts all throughout. The railroad community is actually really small, so we're able to call upon each other for help, which is really cool. All the brand new passenger cars with fresh coats painted on them, it's so cool just to see everything come together. And then we even have a dedication plaque, which is still there. You can come to the railroad anytime and see it. July 26, 1970, in recognition and grateful appreciation to the public spirited people of our valley, both young and old, whose generous contributions and enthusiasm completed this project for all to enjoy. May this link, which joins Oak Meadow and the Southern Parks, be symbolic of the cooperation between men, industry, and government, and the preservation of our heritage for the greatest asset, youth. W.P. Mason, President.
Yeah.
And so then, yeah, all the newspaper articles coming out about how, the locomotive, they did it, they saved it, which is so cool.
Yeah.
And this one is actually really touching. Oh no, we don't have sound. Hold on.
All the great.
I did nothing political.
That's the way it was.
Hold on, I can figure this out. Let me
All right,
let's see.
we'll wait.
That's the way it is.
So yeah, we had Charles Perrault come and do a
Oh, Charles Brown, yeah.
video. All right.
I used to like his commentary things.
That's all.
On the road,
Yeah.
Oh, Charles Perrault.
Can't hear it.
It's pretty quiet, unfortunately.
huh?
But so yeah, this would have been a little bit after opening day, but again, just seeing the park as it used to be is so different since I see how it is now every single day. It's been there for a while. It's awesome. It's a little gem of Los Gatos.
Do any of the employees get any kind of payment?
So actually, yes, we market it as a great first-time job for high school students. So we actually hire high schoolers for selling the tickets, cooking the food, conductor in the back. Because it gives them all money handling skills, food handling skills, customer service. It's awesome. They're not stuck behind a desk or stuck, doing like one job over and over. They rotate their position. So every single day they do something different. But also it's teaching them responsibility and all this stuff too. And that's actually one of my jobs, which I have felt an odd sense of pride when I do see them do their job very well and they get like promoted or something like that. But apart from them, we only have 3 paid employees, which would be myself, our operations manager, who takes care of basically anything on the computer, scheduling, payroll, things like that. And we have our equipment manager, who takes care of all the equipment, the locomotives, the buildings, the grounds. And so it's the 3 of us that basically then, run everything. And the high schoolers that we have for the operations, the day-to-day stuff. And so yeah, I love how he talks about a lot of these volunteers were originally the children that ran at Billy's Ranch. So they remembered all the fun that they had there, so they came on down to help build the railroad.
The locomotive, is it pretty modern? Are you set up on roller bearings, or do you have the old bronze bearings on?
Nope, everything is original as it was.
All original, wow. That's a lot of maintenance.
It is. It's
Yeah.
every Tuesday is actually a volunteer Tuesday, as we call it. It's a maintenance day.
Yeah.
Because those steam locomotives, both the number 2 and our newer one, the number 5,
Yeah.
fun fact, they take 3 hours to fire up. When you first light the fire, you have to build all that heat all that metal, boil the water. 3 hours to fire up,
Yeah.
2 to 3 days to cool down.
Yeah.
So if it's been running on the weekend, we can't touch it until about Tuesday with gloves on. So that's why we have our maintenance days on Tuesdays. So everyone just comes on in, we have a checklist of everything. You can see, yeah, it's an actual fire.
How long can you go between major overhauls?
Typically about the year. Usually January, like the weather's crummy, we don't run all that much, so we can do a lot more of the intense maintenance then.
You have to do the furnace and the flues and everything?
Oh no, we punch those flues all the time. It's a very messy job. It's not fun. But yeah, no, that's, you know, you got a lot of metal on metal stuff. Eventually, that's going to cause some issues. So it's a lot of maintenance, a lot of tender love and care to keep these
It's
things
really
running.
something, you got all the equipment to do that yourself, and that's pretty good.
Wouldn't you love to see that?
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
That's the way it is.
I love that.
Awesome.
Hey.
And with that, that's been our presentation on Billy Jones.
Whoa.
Thank you all for coming down.
I missed the popcorn.
Well, we still have popcorn, actually, and actually it's very good. I get to have all the leftover popcorn when they're done for on the weekends. Steph puts in little baggies, so I get to snack on that, which is really cool. But yeah, it's such rich history. I'm learning more about it every single day. Yes, question.
Yeah, could I ask the people that went there, that are here, to stand up?
Yes, we used to ride on this
On the
road.
road, on the train? Huh?
You
For
rode
riding on the train? No, no.
Well, he was my grandfather,
Oh, my God.
so I rode it a few times.
Awesome. The original location, or
Yeah, over Dave's Avenue.
Awesome.
It's very cool place to grow up. A 10-acre prune ranch, and my mother worked, and they were divorced. It was anything you could work or operate while he was taking a nap was cool.
Were you one of the ones that would pick the plums and then throw them at the cars?
No, not
You've already been it anyway, right?
me. Not me. It was a fun time to grow up. You did a wonderful job, a wonderful presentation.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That would be me right here, editor and presenter of this PowerPoint. But no, so Ken Middlebrook, he was the one that put this initial PowerPoint together. He's our historian. He is such a wealth of knowledge. He's also on our board, which is fantastic. So he has, you know, all this history that he brings with him. In fact, at every single board meeting, we started with a moment in history by Ken Middlebrook. He brings in some artifacts, some magazine article, photos, whatever, of just like the history of it. It's so cool. Yeah, we've been in operation in the park since 1970. It was running even before then at Billy's place. It was running even before then at Venice. There is so much history if only the locomotive could talk, like the stories it would have. So cool. And again, looking at the historical footage of it in Venice, seeing how it originally looked in its environment, the passenger cars, how like extravagant they were. It's just really cool, just such a different time. I love being a part of it. I'm learning more and more every single day. And we didn't even talk about this, but the carousel too. The carousel that we have is over 100 years old. It has its own history. When I was a kid growing up, the carousel, that was girl stuff. That was for my sister. She could go right on that. I'm a boy, I'm riding on the train. Now that I'm a manager there, I started learning the history so I would be somewhat more educated. It is really cool. Like, every horse has its own biography. The construction of it, like, we know all this history. It's so cool. So this has been one of my big pushes is like, well, I want to do more education of the railroad. Just going out there. So this was actually my first time. So hopefully it wasn't too bad. I will refine this a little bit, but it's so awesome. So thank you all for attending. Thank you, NUMU, for having us. And thank you.